This is the Nightwolf howling at you, and today we're going to take a look at the Masterverse, Masters of the Universe Teela figure, the heroic warrior goddess, part of the vintage collection. Now, so far, the vintage collection has been pretty good, and some of the slight updates that they've done have looked really nice. But this will be the first female character in this line, so let's see how it does. And right now, I'm still not hopeful about it because you can already see without taking her out of the box that she's got the reduced articulation that they started giving the female figures in Masterverse for whatever god-awful reason they had. But of course, the sides don't show anything except for the explosion rocks. But on the back, we see some good old-fashioned artwork. Teela uses her magical staff to track her foes' every move. And of course, we see her going up against Beastman and Skeletor in front of Castle Grayskull. And you can arm her with the snake staff or arm her with a shield. As part of this wave, we have Teela, the heroic warrior goddess. Yeah. I also ended up having to order this from Mattel because my Walmart cancel got ordered. Another CancelCon exclusive. In 1982, Masters of the Universe took the world by storm with action figures that captured the imagination of people from here to Eternia. Today, the Masterverse celebrates the original designs as modern 7-inch scale action figures with the vintage collection. So let's go ahead and open her up, shall we? On the side of the box here, or side of the insert I should say, we do see all of her equipment and stuff that she comes with. The figure, the staff, the shield, her extra head, and a pair of punching fists. Okay, so right now I want to start off by mentioning that some of this plastic feels really cheap to me, especially around the feet. And I'm not really a big fan with the way the snake headdress is fitting on her head there. Also, I'm not really a big fan of the helmet head. I feel like the snake headdress is very sized poorly for this figure, just right off the bat. And unfortunately, I had bought a pack of stands, and I can't find them now. I mean, I got a pack of the 2-footer stands, and then I got those little round ones. The round ones I know where they're at, but the ones I use for actually displaying most of the figures, I can't find, and I don't know why. It's just the way my luck's been going this last couple weeks here. But we have her snake staff, which does look like it is based more on the original toy. Her shield also looks like the original toy, kind of, except for, it's actually got a handhold in here instead of a clip. And then, once again, we do have the 2 fists, and they have the in and out articulation on them. I don't really... Does anybody actually use the fists for much of anything? I guess if you're doing photography, you might want them. But otherwise, who cares? And we do have a second head. So, let's take a look at our Teela figure herself. And, well, yeah, let's leave her like this for the moment. Because instead of pulling out an Origins Teela, I am actually going to pull out the vintage Teela. And boy, she has definitely not gone to the tanning salon in Eternia yet. They did seem to capture the general design pretty well here. Again, the snake headdress on the original one does fit better. Also, scale-wise, I do believe she's got larger breasts in the old toy. But, of course, they had to make little things on the headdress, too, in order to have it fit her head back then. Here, the headdress is full, as you can see, and goes all the way around the head. But that's also why we have that helmet. Here's the old original design for the shield. Again, the new shield is actually a very nice update of that. And the snake staff, well, I will say this. The new snake staff is not quite as detailed as their scaling going all the way down basically up until the final kink there. They did very little of that detailing here. Or I should say very little of that detailing came out. But that detailing goes all around here, and there's a lot of smooth areas. So again, like I said, not quite as detailed in that regard, though the head sculpt does look better on the new staff, and there is actually some paint on the eyes. I'm not sure if you can see that very well or not, but yeah, there is paint on those eyes. So let's go ahead and take off her headdress here. I am going to, well, there, take a quick look at her head with the helmet. She's got some really nice blue eyes going on there. A light pink lipstick. Blends in with her face, maybe a little too well though. Side, we just kind of see her hair coming out the bottom of the helmet there like that. Kind of like Man-at-Arms, actually. Oh. I thought that was going to break, honestly. Okay. So as we take a look at the helmetless one, where she's just wearing her tiara, I think there's a little bit of eye wonk on the other head here, which is kind of a shame. The eye makeup is definitely darker on the tiara head. She's just got a small bit of ponytail back there, which makes you kind of wonder, well, I guess if all of her hair is down, because now it's all pulled back up in the back. So kind of, if we want to take a look at the sides of these things, that's sort of how what they were going on there. Unfortunately, her tiara on this one, I think this is old enough to where the paint kind of is merging in a little bit with each other, I guess is a way to look at it, or it's fading or some crap. The overall costume, they actually did do a pretty good job recreating this figure overall. I mean, all the lines and swirls seem to be there for her bracers. Her chest plate seems to be fine, again, except for, well, okay. So this might be a weird way to put it. Like, it does appear like she's got more cleavage showing. But again, scale-wise, it does look like her breasts poke out further on the original toy. So it's not exactly a scaled-up version of her. And on the back side, of course, same thing. Except for it does look like the back of a skirt or mini dress instead of a bodysuit or a onesie like this one does. And you'll note her costume does go all the way back. And they even got her, like, it's like back fat kind of squished up above her thing. So it is kind of silly that they didn't go ahead and just give us the whole, like, open back like the previous version. And then, of course, we've got the extra detailing of the fur being painted white instead of just being gold like on there. And oddly enough, her eyes are actually larger in the original toy. And unfortunately, her lips just, they really do look kind of out of place on the original toy. And, of course, before we go with the articulation, though, we also need to compare her to the Masterverse version from the new Eternia collection. And you can definitely see where it's inspired by, but the designs are very different. And I'm not going to lie to you, I thought for sure that it was going to be almost the exact same figure. But the only thing that really looks like it's been reused for this figure are the boots. And even that I'm not 100% sure about. I'm like 95% sure. But there's a lot of extra paint over on this boot here, which is a shame. But yeah, I'm like 99% sure the boots are the same. The legs are probably the same. Oh, let's take a look here. I would say, yeah, the arms are the same on the new Eternia and this one. The costume is different. The body sculpt is different because it's not as detailed on our vintage inspired one. And the head sculpts are different. The new Eternia one kind of looks like a bitch too, don't you think? Compared to the new one. Of course, we do have the longer flowing hair back here, or semi-flowing hair. And the tiaras are a different design for each one. So that being said, we should go ahead and take a look at our articulation. I'll switch the heads back maybe. But as you can probably already have noticed, you're probably not getting much movement out of the head with the snake headdress. But her head is on a ball joint like we saw. There is a little bit of give in there, but not much. We can spin it all around though. She can kind of look down a bit and she kind of look up a little bit, but that's about it. Arms rotate at a 360 around that way. Hinge up. Hinge down. Again, no bicep cut because they went cheap on the female figures. I just want to do a string of expletives right now for this because it really does piss me off that they've done this. Because they've had some beautiful articulation on a lot of their previous female figures, and the fact that they're removing them now is just, it just pisses me off. So we got a single hinge there. Does not even do a whole full 90. So we can hinge back and up. And then there's a spin there because it's a pin and there's no bicep cut. In and out articulation on the hand. Spin around at the wrist. Same with the other side. We do have a waist swivel. We do have a drop down hip over here. I don't know if it's just, there we go. And we got a drop down hip on the other side. I was about to say, it looks like it only works on one side. We do have a thigh cut still. At least I haven't pulled that out yet. Double joint at the knee. There's an awful lot of extra like plastic fleshing on the seams on this figure too. More so than normal. Boot cut. Foot hinges up and down and spins around. So our hands obviously will hold the staff. Can we get both hands to hold it nicely and properly? Yeah, we can actually get a decent staff hold here. But then we take the staff out. Now again, we do have the kind of double line shield. So this is the so fun part of we get that in there. Then we have to try to jimmy the hand into place to hold that, which usually ends up being more like pull the hand off. Try to fit that sucker in there. Didn't work very well that time. The band is actually kind of thick on this one. So I don't know if I can actually get her to hold on to that part. There we go. So we got her hand in place on the shield. Then all we got to do is try to fit it back into place here. Boom, like that. So honestly, if I have to say it, the only thing that's really bad about this figure is the lack of the elbow and arm articulation. Other than that, it's a pretty good update. All right, I'm going to bitch about the back of the outfit also. Like, I don't see any reason why they couldn't have given it the lower back thing. And no, I don't have a back fetish, but I think it would have looked nice if they'd just gone ahead and completed doing that too. I don't know why they decided to make it go all the way up there like that, but they did. I do think the head sculpt on the vintage one is superior to the one on the new Eternia one. In the case of the staffs, though, you can go either way with that. The vintage version does have its own charm. It would have been nice if they'd been more detailed on it like the original toy had been. But I have to admit, I do like the size of the new Eternia version. I think that staff looks like that's going to hurt like a bitch if you get hit by it. The vintage inspired one does fit the look of the vintage toy much better. That being said, do I think you should buy this figure? Honestly, if you've already got the new Eternia one and you don't care so much about being a full collector, you probably don't need to get the vintage inspired one. Because unlike a lot of the vintage inspired male figures, it's still a lot more reuse from the new Eternia version, you know? The legs and the arms, full reuse right there. Whereupon when you look at the vintage He-Man ones, obviously, I mean, they're reused to each other, but like the arm muscles and everything are bigger. And of course, you've got the double jointed articulation like you're supposed to have on these expensive figures. And being the fact that this is going to be repainted for Evil Lyn with a different head makes it even more irritating that they did not give us the freaking arm articulation. I just don't understand why it is that Mattel has felt the need to go so cheap on the female figures in the Masterverse line. And especially since it looks like the figures in the Chronicles coming up, it looks like they're going to have their full articulation on the arms. So why did they stop for this brief period of time? And it's only a handful of figures, I guess, right? The Evil Lyn, the two Teelas here, and Adora. I think everybody else, all made it through before they started cutting the articulation, which again, what a fucking shame that is. Mattel, you can do better than that. You really can. And I want to see you do better than that. But why don't you guys let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this look at our vintage inspired Teela, please feel free to smash that like button. And if you want to hear more of my nonsense in the future, you can subscribe. Also, if you want to hit that notification bell, you might hear more of my videos. Whether that's a good or bad thing, it's up to you to decide. But I thank you for watching. Peace and love.